Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this session about the InnoRate project, a project funded under the Horizon 2020 program. My name is Juliette Zendron. I'm a project manager at White Research, one of the partner organizations in the project, and I will be moderating this session that focuses on how data can be used in finance to inform the decision-making process of investors when it comes to providing finance to innovation, and by entrepreneurs who want a clear assessment of their innovation potential. During the upcoming hour, you will hear about the experience of the InnoRate project and how it developed a data-driven platform to assess and rate technology. You will also meet some of our partners today. They will be sharing their direct experience with you, and we hope that you will find it inspiring. So today you will hear about what InnoRate is and does, how did we draw inspiration from the Korean COTEC methodology for technology assessment and rating to develop our own European technology rating system, which target groups can benefit from the InnoRate platform and services, and our lessons learned for a successful technology rating system that depends on data. If you have any questions, you can write them in the chat and we will respond either during the session in written or during a short Q&A session at the end of the presentation. To start, I will give the floor to our first speakers, Mr. Dimitrios Daskalakis and Mr. Konstantinos Tiziridis, respectively Director and Project Manager at Qplan International, the coordinator of the InnoRate project, and they will present to you InnoRate, the idea behind the project, the goal, and Dimitrios, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Julia. Just a few words about InnoRate, our project that actually was funded under topic InnoSup 9, 2018. It was a coordination and support action with a duration of 36 months and a total budget of about 3 million euros. Qplan International from Thessaloniki, Greece was the coordinator, while our consortium comprised of 9 partners from 5 European countries, as well as the Republic of Korea. Julia, please, next slide. Okay, thank you very much. This is just an overview of our consortium. We see that we have Qplan and Management, Innovation and Management Consulting Company from Greece. We have 2 partners from Bulgaria, that is Technology Global, an organization offering matchmaking services by bringing together corporates and investors in Europe and connecting them with promising entrepreneurs. We got Ontotex, a leading developer and provider of core semantic technology. From Italy, we have 2 partners. We have Ernst & Young. We all know that's among the global leaders in advisory, assurance, tax, and transaction services. We've got Unismart, the University of Padua Foundation for Technology Transfer and Innovation Consulting Activities. From Belgium, we have also 2 partners, that is EBN, the European Business and Innovation Center Network, the leading non-profit pan-European association of incubator units and business support structures, as well as White Research, a social research consulting firm specializing in consumer behavior, market analysis, and innovation. Furthermore, we have Yolt Capital from France, an independent private equity firm specialized in technology and targeting investments into companies with revenues between 10 and 100 million euro. From Korea, from the Republic of Korea, we have the Korea Technology Finance Corporation. Actually, it's COTEC in English or KIBO in Korean. That is a state-owned institution, the main purpose of which is to facilitate new technology-based startups and SMEs in Korea. Actually, our consortium was very complementary and in terms of fields of expertise, knowledge, and networks, which actually was very helpful for the whole development of the project. Next slide, please. Here's a few words about the context and rationale of our project. First of all, we see that money, we have 3 main issues to cope with. That money is not making its way to the real economy champions. That barriers to financing innovators with high growth potential in Europe is a fact that actually is there, and we have limited investors' capacity to appropriately assess disruptive innovation. All this lead actually to the need for data-driven tools for technology assessment and rating, methodologies recognized in the EU. Next slide. A few words about InnoRate scope. There are 3 main pillars to this. First of all, facilitate the access to finance for SMEs startups, and tech-driven innovators. Secondly, support the decision-making processes for investors, innovation intermediaries, and TTOs in identifying breakthrough and innovations. That actually is a very key issue in order to cope with all the barriers we've seen before. And last but not least, minimize the time and resources required for investors for assessing all these innovative cases and minimize the risk premiums paid by innovative project managers. We'll further elaborate on what our project did in the next slide and the next presentations by our key project partners. So I give the floor to Kostas Chisiridis, who was the everyday project manager of the project.
Thank you very much, Dimitrios. So the key quote of the project is that we bring innovation to finance and finance to innovation. I will delve into some details about our methodology, the InnoRate Technology Rating System, or the so-called ITRS, but in any case, more information will be given during the next presentations of this session. So at InnoRate, we do not start from scratch. Actually, we rely our methodology, our indicators, the processes followed on an already established and tested technology appraisal system that has been developed in the Republic of Korea by Kotek. So to give you some details about the technology assessment rating methodology of Kotek, the so-called KTRS, Kotek, based on the KTRS, has already assessed over 200,000 cases of innovative Korean SMEs. And by doing so, it has helped these SMEs to gain access to over 75 billion euros of financing in guarantee funding, actually. Now, it is important to highlight that over these 3 years of the project, we have transferred the KTRS into the European context, and we have developed the InnoRate Technology Rating System based, of course, on dedicated research made by project partners, but based also on consultations with experts around Europe. Now, the ITRS is divided into 2 separate but interconnected phases. First of all, we have a fully automated phase, a quick assessment of an innovation, the so-called pre-screening, where we assess mostly quantitative factors of the technology potential of an innovator. And secondly, we have the deep assessment phase where human experts enter into the assessment equation in order to assess some, let's say, more hard to grasp, hard to quantify, mostly qualitative aspects of innovation. So by doing so, ITRS captures both the market potential of innovation, but also the risk that is attached to this innovation. In total, 36 indicators support our methodology. These indicators are classified into 4 main business categories. For example, we assess the management team behind technology. We also assess some inherent technological aspects and capabilities of an innovator. And we also look at the market. We assess the marketability and the business feasibility of a technology. I would also to highlight 2 key advantages of ITRS as a data-driven methodology that supports investment-making decisions. So first of all, the ITRS is highly customizable. This means that we can customize the methodology depending on the use case that it's used for. And to give an example, we apply different weighting schemes for its different use case. So we have different weights, for example, depending on the development stage of a company. For example, different weights if a company is at its early stage, mature stage, or growth stage. And of course, another key advantage of our methodology is that ITRS can be easily applied to a diverse set of technological domains. This makes the ITRS, let's say, sector agnostic. So in the next slide, you will see the key services of the project. The ITRS has been fully digitized and offered to stakeholders via the InnoRate platform. So we have deployed the platform that is currently pilot tested over these 3 years of the project. And via the InnoRate platform, beneficiaries can get access to the pre-screening tool, as I said before, to quickly self-assess the innovation potential by filling in some predefined indicators. By doing so, they will be able to get the pre-screening grade and a dedicated report that details the performance of the innovator in each of the ITRS indicator. We do offer some data analytics services via the InnoRate platform. For example, users of the platform can get access to insights about the innovation ecosystem and do some market research. And of course, the deep assessment is also facilitated via the platform. We match innovators on the one hand with experts on the other hand, who will do the deep assessment of a company. This will produce the so-called InnoRate technology score, which is the final score of our methodology. And of course, this is also accompanied by the respective report. ITRS is currently fine-tuned based on market-driven input that is gathered during the pilot phase of the project. And we offer some horizontal services in order to support innovators. First of all, we have some dedicated investment readiness services. So we aim to build the investment readiness of innovators, and then we try to match these innovators with potential investors in their technological domain, the so-called matchmaking services. These services are offered to the beneficiaries via workshops and web. Finally, we have already established a pool of experts. These experts are the ones who do the deep assessment, as I mentioned before. So in the next slide, you will be able to see some facts so far about the project. So first of all, we have targeted 8 key technological domains. As you can see, these tech domains refer mostly to the key enabled technologies as they defined by the European Commission. And 5 use cases have been tested, spanning, for example, from investors who have used the InnoRate platform in order to scout for and identify innovators. But also we have the use case, for example, of startups and SMEs who have used the platform in order to self-assess the innovation, to use the ITRS report in order to facilitate their access to finance in a data-driven manner. Some key facts now about the project. We have over 230 registrants on the InnoRate platform. So far, we have been able to engage over 600 stakeholders via our pilot activities. And of course, we have approximately 55 pre-screenings conducted so far. And the last slide of my presentation will delve into the key benefits that InnoRate offers to its stakeholders. Now, I will start by saying that via InnoRate, via the ITRS and our platform, our stakeholders can minimize the time and resources used for an assessment. Also, ITRS is a forward-looking methodology, meaning that we try to assess some intangible aspects without looking backwards, without looking at the financial position of innovator, but only the future. We assess the future, we assess the potential of an innovation. These facts make InnoRate and our methodology an effective way to support the decision-making of investors when it comes to the provision of funding and financing. Thank you very much. This was it from my side. I will give the floor back to Julia. Thanks.
Thank you very much for this presentation and for setting the scene. As you heard, the development of the InnoRate Technology Rating System was inspired by the KTRS, the technology rating methodology developed by KOTEK in the Republic of Korea, which is a benchmark recognized internationally. Due to the time difference between Europe and the Republic of Korea, our partners from KOTEK cannot be here with us today, but we can still hear from them through this short video where Dr. Yushin Kim, Deputy Director at KOTEK, introduces the KTRS and their experience assessing companies. So we'll now kindly ask the technical support to play the video.
Good morning, Europe. Thank you for having me to present the InnoRate Technology Rating System from the Korean KTRS. I'm Yushin Kim from Korea Technology Finance Corporation, KOTEK, also known as KIBO in Korean. KOTEK, the Korean partner of InnoRate project, developed its proprietary KTRS, KOTEK Technology Rating System, which inspired the InnoRate project. As mentioned earlier in this presentation, in this session, I will talk about the evolution of KTRS and its global expansion to help better understanding of the InnoRate project. Kotek is a public financial institution in Korea established in 1989 under the Korea Technology Finance Corporation Act to provide financial as well as non-financial services to technology-based SMEs and startups. Among many of Kotek's operations, technology assessment and technology guarantee are two major operations. Over 20 years, Kotek accumulated more than 765,000 cases of technology assessment data. In 2020 alone, Kotek assessed about 51,000 cases, which means one case per week for each assessment officer on average. Kotek's first mission is to facilitate the access to finance of innovative SMEs and startups by providing credit guarantee, which is called as technology guarantee since it is based on technology assessment. To this end, Kotek manages Technology Guarantee Fund raised by government and supported by commercial banks as well. Based on the fund, Kotek provides technology guarantee to facilitate SMEs debt financing, which is most common and fast way for SMEs to raise money. Once an SME applies for loan and technology guarantee, Kotek conducts due diligence and technology assessment. For qualified SMEs, Kotek approves and issues credit guarantee. In general, this whole process takes less than 5 days. With limited amount of fund and time to process, a fast and reliable decision-making tool is essential to provide financial support on time to those in need. In the early days, Kotek used a credit rating-based screening procedure just like other financial institutions. When applied to the majority of Kotek's clients, early-stage innovative SMEs, the credit rating system showed low discriminating power in selecting technology businesses with growth potential. Thus, we needed to change our viewpoint on the assessment to identify good companies, focusing more on the future growth potential than the creditworthiness of our clients. And the technology rating system was our choice as an alternative. Starting from scratch, Kotek benchmarked technology assessment systems in USA and Europe. Without much data on hand, a group of experts identified assessment indicators that are thought influence the success of technology business and assigned a weight to each indicator. It was the first prototype of Kotek's KTRS V0 introduced in 1999. With this primitive system, Kotek was able to collect valuable data, including company information at different time points, as well as the success and failure of technology businesses. With data collected over 5 years, Kotek designed and implemented the first statistics-based system, KTRS V1. Since then, KTRS was updated on a regular basis to reflect changes in technology and business trends. After 20 years of KTRS operation, Kotek accumulated over 700,000 of technology assessment data and related performance data of our clients. With this big data, KTRS was upgraded to InnoRate, the new expert AI hybrid system, by introducing artificial intelligence in 2020. We also have been sharing our knowledge and experiences on technology rating system with our global partners all over the world. Starting from Vietnam, we transferred statistical model-based technology rating system to Thailand, Peru, and Europe. Because of the differences in industry landscape, educational, political, and economic systems between Korea and these countries, KTRS went through huge customization to address the needs of each country. The InnoRate technology rating system was co-designed with InnoRate partners based on KTRS, through the modification of existing indicators, the development of new indicators, and the deletion of unnecessary indicators to reflect European innovation landscape. In the next presentation, InnoRate partner EY will provide more detail on ITRS. Thank you for listening. Please enjoy the rest of InnoRate presentation.
So, as you heard, the KTRS is the backbone of the InnoRate Technology Rating System. And now, Mr. Carmine Apice, data scientist and senior consultant at Ernst & Young, will present the process of adapting the KTRS to the European context to develop the ITRS, the InnoRate Technology Rating System, and how this system works in practice. So let's give the floor to Carmine.
Thank you very much, Giulia. Okay. Before starting, I would like to thank Mariano Puzzetta and Jacopo De Angelis because of their work on the project, because their participation was fundamental for everything. Okay, so what is the ITRS? The ITRS basically is a combination of two elements. Okay, so the two elements are the pre-screening services and the deep assessment services. What are these? Essentially, what are these elements? Are two methodology to evaluate companies completely different. Okay, they have a common base, okay, which is the methodology behind, but they are completely different kind of assessment. The first one is essentially a tool to, let's say, I would say short and dirty tool. Okay, so it is a way to evaluate a company when you just have a few information and quantitative information. Okay, so you have a kind of pre-evaluation of what are the characteristics and what is the level of innovation a company. The second one is essentially a different kind of approach, which basically help the evaluation in the sense that enrich all the elements of the evaluation with qualitative and opinion-based basically scores. The combination of the two creates what is at the end the ITRS score. Next slide. Okay, thank you very much. This is essentially a very high-level view of what is the data flow that is basically based on our platform. We have essentially two kinds of data, which are quantitative and qualitative. The quantitative one is the one that are provided by the SMEs and is essentially, and we'll see later on. And then we have expert research. So we have qualitative information coming from the expert that analyze essentially the main characteristic of the companies. This data then both come within the methodological part. So in the center you see the methodology part, which are deep assessment to assessment that I gave you some idea before. And then are applied to this data, are applied the set of weighting schema, which is the one that we basically mutuated from the KTRS. Okay, so from the experience of Korean partners. All the set then creates the final ITRS score that is basically a value that can help to assign an evaluation of the technological readiness and innovation of a company, of a startup, of a mature firm. Okay, next slide, please. Yes, cool. There's a little animation, magnific, fantastic. Okay, what are essentially the domain in which we are concentrated on in the evaluation of a startup? Essentially, we have to find in the preliminary phase of the project a set of domains, essentially, that helped us to evaluate company in an overall manner. Okay, the domains essentially are four. Okay, I see two, but if you go more further exactly, magnific. We go further, we have 4 domains, which are management, technology, marketability, and business feasibility. These are the pillar on which we base our evaluation on the ITRS. And the most important part is that these elements, this domain, are slightly different with respect to what has been implemented in the KTRS, for what Professor Kim said before to us. Essentially, we have customized and tailored this element together with the help of expert, domain expert, etc., to the European context. And essentially, this is the key part, no? Because the methodology behind that you will see later on, that I will show you in a bit later on, is essentially a very customizable methodology, but of course you have to adapt to the context that you are considering. Next slide. This is a picture of what it's a more in-depth picture of the domain that we have seen before. Okay, divided by quick and deep assessment. Essentially, here there are a set of proxy variables that help us to evaluate for each domain and for each assessment what is essentially a kind of indicator for I don't know, a management skill of the company, or the technology, to evaluate what is the competency in technology in terms for a company, etc. A proxy variable, because of course sometimes you cannot have a direct measure of the, I don't know, the technology level of a company. You can use proxy measures. For example, the number of people that have a PhD in your company, the percentage of your turnover that you use to invest in research and development, and so on. Okay. So this is more or less what is the main elements of each pillar. The two assessment, the quick and deep assessment, are comes basically one after the other. Okay, so basically the company and the company comes to the platform, to the InnoRate platform, start to fill a form, and then after a certain point, the company receive an assessment, a preliminary assessment, and then there is the possibility to proceed with the deep assessment. How this process works, we see it in the next slide. Okay, and this is more or less the representation of what I just say to you just now. So there are several steps, but I'm not going to read everything, of course, because otherwise we spend too much time on this. But essentially, the first part of the steps are the company that fill a form in the platform, receive a quick assessment rate, so a first assessment of what is your innovation level, and then ask for an evaluation to a set of experts. Okay, this drives the company from the quick assessment to the deep assessment. Okay, so to the acquisition of the deep assessment. And then after the deep assessment also is made by the expert, so with the interviews and with the filling a specific form for to provide information to the platform itself. There is the combination of these two assessments, essentially, so the quick and deep are combined, in order to obtain the ITRS. We can see in a way that the ITRS is an evolution of the quick assessment. Why is this? Because the quick assessment is based on quantitative data, provided by the company, while the deep assessment goes more in deep and provide on the same scale, okay, an update based on interviews that of the expert that go more in deep on the company details. Next slide. Okay, this is of course don't be scared. I mean, this is a let's say a simplified representation of the deep assessment, how it works in terms of matrix representation of the matrix. Okay, so essentially there are two elements that we consider for the application of deep assessment. The first one is the application of a methodology, which is the one that we moved from the KTRS, which is called the analytic hierarchy process, which is essentially a multi-criteria decision-making methodology that helps essentially to evaluate a goal, which is in our case is to find the best or the better company, best company in terms of innovation, using a certain amount of criteria. The advantage of this methodology is that you essentially can, with certain limits, compare apple and oranges. Okay, so you can compare criteria which are completely different, which are the ones that we saw before in the domains. Applying this methodology, you can essentially evaluate globally, holistically, a company looking to different to these different criteria, which are the management, technology, and so on. At the end, it helps to avoid what economists call the arrow paradox, no? So the paradox of the choices, because it has within the methodology itself, there is also a consistency index that help to assess what you have done before. Okay, so just without going too much into details, essentially after the deep assessment, there is a pairwise comparison of the criteria, okay, the criteria for which we evaluate the startup, and then there is some matrix algebra essentially that provide a final score. Okay, and this is more or less the application of methodology to this context. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Carmine. And now that we have learned about the methodology behind InnoRate, let's see who can benefit from the platform and the services of InnoRate, together with Ms. Milena Gartley, Senior Project Manager at Tech2r Global, who will present to us the 5 use cases of InnoRate. Milena, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Julia. Thank you, colleagues, for presenting so far. So there are several use cases that are present on the InnoRate technology rating system, and that can benefit from its methodology and services. And these use cases are 5 for now. The first use case is private investors, those who seek investment opportunities. Then follow innovation intermediaries, which are innovation and development agency, business and financial advisors, and similar, who provide services to SMEs. Technology transfer offices is the other use case. Those use university-based innovative projects to support those projects' commercialization, which means that the use case of small and medium-sized enterprises can be even early stage project where still needs a huge support for commercialization. And the other use case is matchmaking. Those are firms that organize matchmaking events or that bring together small and medium-sized enterprise with investors and other SMEs seeking partnerships or strategic alliances. And the other use case, I think, to my opinion, one of the most important on the ITRS, on the InnoRate Technology Rating System, these are the small and medium-sized enterprises. These are entities that seek self-assessment to build their investment readiness. As I mentioned, they can be even early stage projects or still not registered companies to access prospective private investors at international level. And now, one by one, I will present to you each use case, what is the benefit for use case and what their representative can do on the investment on the technology rating system of InnoRate. So private investors, what can they do? They can search and select projects, innovators, even individual innovators and SMEs in regards with the sector that they invest in. Of course, they will see those SMEs pre-screening results they can also require deep assessment for a certain SME that a private investor has seen on the technology rating system. The investor can require their deep assessment. And also the investor can approach the SME if they are interested in their innovation. So they can see also, they can compare which are the top scored SMEs in the technology rating system in certain sector. They can see how they compare to other SMEs under certain criteria they have chosen. For example, here, their management indicators evaluation, and they can make relevant conclusions whether to approach that SME for further relations or to seek further amongst our database. And the next use case, these are the innovation intermediaries. Let's say that they have received a request from an innovator or from SME or for somebody else that they need to provide their services to them or relate to a certain SME or investor or anybody else from our use cases. So innovation intermediaries can see the pre-screening again. As you can see, this is very important. The registered SMEs to have filled the pre-screening and also to have filled the deep assessment. Innovation intermediary can see the deep assessment of an SME and then to search and select. Innovation intermediary can search in certain innovation industry that they're interested in, by organization type, by company stage, whether it is very early stage or a more advanced stage. We have companies, actually the ITRS is not limited to certain growth stage of SMEs. We even have SMEs that are stage A, stage B on the technology rating system. So for innovation intermediaries, it is important that they can also seek and compare. The next use case, these are technology transfer offices, and this use case is very important, especially for early stage technologies. Technology transfer offices can search using the university's tools. They can also, the technology transfer offices can register a project and do for that project a pre-screening in regards with its technological achievements, qualities, and so on, with those 4 score bases that Carmine presented in his slides. Technology transfer offices can also approach a project and based on the score that project received from the technology rating system, they can also provide suggestions for improvement. The next use case is matchmaking. This is for those who match companies and investors for cooperation, for strategic partnerships, for investments, and so on. And matchmaking companies can search and select, can compare also in SMEs, can make a selection based on innovation industry, organization type, company stage, and so on. And they can also recommend SME or investor to to participate in certain activities of their interest. So they can invite SME and investor to participate in matchmaking events or investment readiness services or similar. And the other use case that we have had, I think this is the most important use case. These are the SMEs, innovators, and projects. Even in the very early stage, they can provide data input related to their technology, and they can rate that technology accordingly. So they provide data input as much as they have, and that is the pre-screening of the technology of the SME, innovator, or project. And that SME can also extract a report, for example, in PDF file, showing their score in different areas related to the technology rating system. An SME can also ask for deep assessment of their technology. This is also something important, that they can also search for investors related to their sector, or to even they can compare themselves to other companies from the same sector or from the same geographic area. They can search for investors that may suit their company stage or the investments they are planning to raise. So these were the use cases of InnoRate Technology Rating System. And thank you, Julia, and the rest of the colleagues for this opportunity.
Thank you, Milena. Now that we are moving towards the end of this session, we want to share with you our lessons learned over the 3 years of the project. As you saw, InnoRate has built a pan-European data-driven service platform that uses a technology rating methodology that can help different use cases. Additionally, InnoRate has also run a series of matchmaking and investment readiness events. And drawing from these experiences, we have brought together our findings, our lessons learned, let's say, in the form of 15 recommendations. These recommendations can be transferred and used by European institutions, national and regional organizations, accelerators, incubator programs, and overall stakeholders from the industry. And in line with the scope of the InnoRate project, these recommendations bring forward suggestions on how to develop and make the best use of a data-driven technology rating system, having as an ultimate goal to make it easier for companies in high-growth technology sectors to make their case to investors and access financing solutions. We have grouped the recommendations under 3 main subgroups, each looking at the technology rating system from a different perspective, and namely how to structure a successful TRS, how to build trust in a TRS, and how to make an optimal use of a TRS. So during the first phases of our project, we interacted with various stakeholders to gather input on how to design and build our platform and rating methodology. And over the project months, we have verified with our users how satisfied they were or what type of improvements they would have liked to see. And based on these interactions, here are our recommendations on how to structure and what to include in a successful TRS. So first of all, to fully understand the potential of an innovative technology, a successful TRS should also account for aspects that go beyond the tangible assets. We know that many deep tech investors lack the expertise to identify and assess breakthrough technologies, and that traditionally they have based their evaluation on more tangible aspects, such as, for example, the past financial history of a company. However, aspects such as technology competency and marketability should also be taken into account. And this can happen if we can include a combination of quantitative and qualitative assessment that allows the tool to perform both a quick assessment of a company. This will reduce the time and effort required on behalf of the investor, and a more thorough assessment performed by experts. Another relevant feature for a TRS is matchmaking. We know that for companies, it is hard to identify the most appropriate financing solutions, and a TRS should include matchmaking options between innovative SMEs and investors. In particular, our users favor the possibility to participate at physical or digital matchmaking events where SMEs and investors can filter one another based on a set of criteria. Looking now at the technical development of a TRS, our recommendation here is to set in advance all platform requirements, since it is challenging to implement new features and new requirements to an existing platform. This risks to lead to bad engineering decisions and may negatively affect the platform. And for this reason, proportionate attention should be devoted to the conceptualization phase. Another recommendation came from the fact that the majority of stakeholders that we involved found that this type of platform could be relevant for their business. So the recommendation here is that a technology rating platform should benefit multiple use cases, meaning that it should support the decision-making of different types of stakeholders. And this is why in InnoRate, we target not only innovators, startups, SMEs, and investors, but also technology transfer offices, innovation intermediaries, experts, and matchmaking companies. Finally, our last recommendation of this group highlights the importance of branding of a technology rating system. This is a key, let's say, to its success, since a platform without participants would not have value. So branding should receive proportionate attention since the early stages of the development of a TRS to raise awareness and establish the platform as a benchmark for technology rating. Moving to the second group of recommendations, one of the main issues that we encounter when we promote a technology rating system and we propose it as a solution is, of course, lack of trust. So once again, based on our experience piloting the platform and the rating methodology, we have observed the main issues and collected feedback from our users. And based on the collected results, we have put forward 5 recommendations on what is necessary to build trust in a technology rating system. These concern issues of transparency, data management, and quality of experts. So starting from the first recommendation, since it is difficult to convince companies to go through a technology rating process that they know little about, a trustful TRS should be rigorous and have transparent processes, at least to the extent that this does not compromise, let's say, sensitive or confidential information about its functions. In one of our workshops, it emerged that this is particularly true for experienced investors because they are used to their own criteria to assess whether or not to invest in a company and are reluctant to use rating systems that they have no clear information about. The second recommendation concerns the quality of experts conducting the deep assessment. The recommendation is that the quality of these experts should be standardized and regulated by reputable entities in a systematic manner. So for example, proper criteria and training programs with authorized certificates should be established to guide experts and minimize the deviations among assessments and ensure, let's say, consistency of the TRS. Regarding the value proposition of a TRS, it is essential to find additional utility from the data that we collect from the onboarded companies. So in the system, if the system only requests one-off data input, we risk that the value of this data will erode quickly. On the other hand, we know that companies have relevant market knowledge and insights. And for this reason, it is important to request from companies that are registering data that have a long shelf life and are refreshed, to incentivize different types of stakeholders, for example, to return to the platform to check trends and tipping points. Again, talking about the data requested by the system, a TRS requires a sheer amount of data, and to maximize the utility of this data while minimizing the risks that are associated with data protection, there should be a centralized and systematic data management system that is entrusted to an authorized entity. And so ideally, at European level, there should be a unified framework for technology rating, a framework for technology rating related data management, let's say, an information infrastructure that connect various sources. Finally, of course, subjectivity and truthfulness are a problem for rating systems that rely on self-declaration from users. Ideally, a TRS should have a rigorous data acquisition model that can dilute this bias and distortion as much as possible. Going back to what we mentioned before about companies and the relevant knowledge and insights that they possess, encouraging them to share this data would not only improve the rating, but also make validation and benchmarking easier, since these can be integrated and compared with data from other companies, peers, and competitors. And finally, over the project months, we have identified and tested the value proposition of our technology rating methodology and services. And here are our recommendations on how to make an optimal use of a TRS and its connected services and features, including the data collected. So first of all, and this is also InnoRate's primary value proposition, the TRS could be used to reveal and promote disruptive technologies that are developed by European companies to investors, both in Europe and worldwide, to increase investments volume. Then also European projects that provide training or financing opportunities can benefit from the TRS to pre-select companies for their training and financing programs. So instead of using internal resources to design selection criteria to qualify and filter SMEs for their programs, they could rely on a technology rating system. Then from our initial analysis on the needs and barriers to investment for innovative SMEs, it emerged how, in the European context particularly, entrepreneurs seem to lack knowledge regarding the importance of investment readiness, but also the management competencies that are required to attract external sources of funding. So our recommendation here is to design and complement the TRS with strong investment readiness programs for SMEs to allow them to gain the knowledge to start and grow and become more attractive to investors. Then starting from the recognition that it is difficult to network with experts and peers who can provide valuable insights into the technological potential and investment readiness of companies and projects in highly technological innovative sectors. Another recommendation is to create a pan-European level database of experts to enable companies to connect with experts who can help them assess their potential. So the InnoRate project has developed such a database, building a pool of experts in which experts could participate through a selection procedure. Similarly, a European organization could promote the creation of an expert database that can help innovative tech companies. Our final recommendation is to build a central information hub for training and financing opportunities to help potential beneficiaries navigate all the existing offerings. Currently, there are several offerings, both from the public and private sector. And at the European level, a registry that centralizes this information could be created. So these were our lessons learned and recommendations for a successful TRS. And if you're interested in knowing more about the InnoRate's activities, you can find all our public reports in a dedicated section of our website, together with our resources. And on the website, you can also find the link to our platform, and we welcome you to try it. And if you have any questions or are interested in our project activities, you can, of course, visit the website or follow us on social media or contact us directly. So our session has reached the end. I want to thank a lot all the other speakers. I think we received a couple of questions, so I will need the support of my colleagues for this. Let's start from the first one. Okay, the first question is, how versatile is the methodology? Can you also embed other factors like the European taxonomy for sustainable finance and environmental social governance aspects? I will maybe ask our colleagues from Qplan or Ernst & Young if they want to respond to this question.
Yep, sure. Thanks, Julia. I mean, we can provide, let's say, a quick answer, and then Carmine, feel free to jump in and elaborate further on our response. So, indeed, the methodology actually is highly versatile. As you have already seen by our presentations, we rely our indicators in four main business components. So we could easily, for example, add an additional business component that addresses some environmental aspects of a company to assess if this company has made an environmental friendly, for example, investment. The EU taxonomy is the future. The Commission will rely more and more on environmental aspects of companies in order to provide financing and funding. So indeed, yeah, I think this makes sense that we could easily transform the ITRS towards this direction for sure.
Yeah, fully agree. Of course, as Costa said, the methodology is very flexible in order to consider or not consider elements which are basically the ones that construct the ITRS. Okay, so it's fully true. You can add or to remove easily elements which basically do not reach consistency for the evaluation criteria.
Thank you very much. I think we have another question, this time for Milena. Milena, based on your experience in the project, would a matchmaking organization use such a methodology? Would you use the outcomes of the ITRS to drive in a data-informed manner the matchmaking between investors and SMEs?
Thank you, Julia. Certainly, this is, and also based on our experience, because Techtor provides matchmaking services, we use outcomes of the ITRS to drive in data-informed matchmaking between investors and SMEs, and also between SMEs and other SMEs for strategic partnerships if they would choose to do so. And this is also, I can say, because the technology rating system has these filters. For example, if investor specializes in certain sector, certain sector of technologies, or if depending whether the investor looks at certain stage, company development stage to invest, whether it is a seed investment or whether this is Series A, this is also a basis for matchmaking, as well as for a company to see whether an investor is investing in their own sector, and sometimes even company technology, a technology that is that can find uses in other sectors. For example, photonics is being used in for medical use, and so on. So the technology rating system of InnoRate is a good basis for matchmaking companies and investors in using various indicators of the system. I hope that this answered the question.
Thank you very much, Milena. I think since the time is almost over, I'm closing the session. It was a pleasure to be here as part of the European Big Data Value Forum. I hope you enjoyed the presentations, and I wish you all a nice rest of the day. Goodbye.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.